Welcome in to episode number 24 of A Math Moment with Mr. Behnke. As always, I am your host, Mr. Behnke. I just want to go through a couple things this week. First of all, these red parts are clickable. So in both these links, you could just choose which one your student's in. In Math 6, they go through kind of what we're doing in class, and they go through some example problems. And then in the 6+ one, I do the same. Both Math 6 and 6+ have an assessment coming up on Tuesday. So again, that's why I kind of talk about what we're doing here. If your student is looking for extra practice, they do have some practice problems in their daily agenda for today, Friday. Also, your student can pull up some videos on Khan Academy. Khan Academy, I also link right here. Khan Academy is amazing. They have great videos as well as some practice problems that can check for understanding for your student. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. All right, next, well, now that we're living in the world of rotations here, so basically what I do is I send out a video. It's almost every day of the week. I send out a 6 to 9 minute video, instructional video that I, Mr. Behnke, create. All right, whatever skill it is that we're covering, I go through it in that video, and then at the end they have to answer an exit ticket. So make sure your student watches that video before the next day, because the next day we do rotations, and one of them is working on iReady, one of them is working either on an online or offline task, and then another rotation is with me. So it's beneficial that they watch that video when it's due, because then the next day I meet with small groups for 15 minutes and we go through, kind of check for understanding, see if they know what we're doing. That's their opportunity to ask for extra help. And kind of the nice thing about doing instructional videos and not just lecturing for the entire hour is students can work on stuff on their own. They don't have to do everything at home. You don't have to do a bunch of math problems at home with your student. And also, I get to really get to know in small groups. I get to know what your student knows and what they don't know. So it's really important that if your student has any questions, make sure they ask, but also make sure they're watching those instructional videos that I post in Google Classroom. All right, make sure they watch them when they're due. All right. So I want to talk about what rotations look like. Um, I also want to include these websites are linked on my Google Classroom in the station rotation, as well as on my class hub. But Khan Academy, I'd already talked about. Khan Academy is great. They have great videos. The owner, Sal Khan, goes through whatever topic. There's also science and ELA, computer programming, all sorts of stuff. There's videos, and then they have check for understanding type questions. Also, Mathagon. Students know by now how much I love Mathagon. All right, there's an incredible amount of manipulatives and different resources on Mathagon. There's also, it's called multiplication by heart, and if you're especially if your student's struggling with their multiplication facts, on Mathagon, again, multiplication by heart, that would be really great for them. It's like spaced repetition. Basically, they get multiplication facts, and then depending on how well they do on those, they may or may not get it for a couple days. So there's all sorts of stuff on there. I've just told kids, just check it out, play around with it. And then Prodigy. Prodigy it's like a math game. I like to compare it to Pokemon, but for math. All right, that's just my opinion. So if you see any of your students using any of those sites, they're awesome. Next, I won't talk about it in this video, but if you click on this one here, checking students iReady progress. So if you follow those directions, you can see what your student's scale score was on their diagnostic test. But then also almost every week, depending on the length of the week, but almost every week your student would have to do 2 lessons per week. All right. And I told students, I'm not keeping track of if you do extra this week. If you do, you got to do 2 this week. If you do 5 this week, I'm not going to count extra ones towards next week. All right. So make sure you check the dates. If it's this week is the 19th through the 25th, when I check at the end of the week, it's Sunday to Saturday. So you got to do 2 lessons in between Sunday through Saturday. And they do get 15 minutes per day. So that gives you a way to check to see what your student's exactly doing. But again, I do want you to know, if your student does 5 this week, it's just too much work for me to keep track of if they do 5 this week, and then I got to keep track of every student. Oh, they've done extra this week and this week and this week. All right. Also, I really want to include a poster that has Chromebook shortcuts. All right. There's so many different things, especially if you're using like Mathagon, you can copy and paste, take a screenshot. But in general, there's a lot of good shortcuts in that link right there. And then lastly, I always want to include where students, and this is important since we've had a fair amount of students who are out of the building for whatever reason. If you are ever looking for what your student has to be done for math, first of all, I always assign videos in Google Classroom. So always have your, I tell students, don't check the classwork tab, check your to-do list. All right. It's much, because then you can see each class laid out really nicely. Okay, so videos are assigned in Google Classroom. You can also go into that class hub, and you as parents can do this too. Check out our agenda, okay? Because every day's agenda is on there, and if you're home, you can see, okay, we did these problems today. I am not holding them accountable for doing those problems. They're only required to watch their videos and do ready. But any extra work that would just be beneficial. I'm not holding them to it. All right. But if you want to know what we're doing in the class, like what questions we're doing in class, you can check out those agendas and see what we're doing. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm really open to any feedback you have. So yeah, and have the best weekend ever. This is episode number 24 of A Math Moment with Mr. Behnke. Mr. Behnke signing out.